Good morning, Sunny Bonani, Goeiemorgen, and how's it? Greetings from a very chilly Johannesburg. I really wish I was with you in Durban today, my hometown. So I want to start this morning with a risk briefing. And I can already hear some of you thinking, I came here for the eggs and the awards, not a risk briefing. But I want you to bear with me, please. I don't often get audiences as influential as this one, all in the same room at the same time. So this morning, I want to talk to you about the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. So the Lesotho Highlands Water Project is probably the largest water infrastructure project on the African continent. It was established as a treaty between Lesotho and South Africa in 1986 and governed by two bodies, the Lesotho Highlands Water Development Authority on the one side, and the South African Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority on the other side. The project effectively harvests water from the Maluti Mountains, one of the wettest catchment areas in Southern Africa. And it transfers it northwards through an extraordinary network of tunnels and dams and pipelines into the Vaal River system and ultimately to Gauteng. So some of the key infrastructure elements of the Lesotho Water Highlands Project is the Katse Dam, one of the tallest arch dams in the world, completed in 1996. The Mogale Dam, a major rockfall dam, completed in 2002. The Moela Hydropower Station, and that supplies electricity back to Lesotho. And the Polihali Dam, which in phase 2, currently under construction with the target completion date in 2028. So the headline statistic for in every business risk, I think, and this should be in every business risk register, is that the Lesotho Highlands Water Project currently supplies something like 25 to 30% of the total demand water of the Vaal River system, making it one of the most critical external sources feeding Gauteng and surrounding provinces. So this contribution is essential because the Vaal River Basin supports nearly 45% of South Africa's population and 60% of its GDP. Phase 2 alone, once completed, will transfer something like 1.27 billion cubic meters of water per year. Now, let's move to the risk register. Firstly, there's financial risk. Phase 2 costs have escalated from an initial 8 billion to an estimate to over 53 billion. One parliamentarian has warned that the figure could reach 200 billion without intervention. Then there's governance risk. The binational treaty structure prevents South Africa's Auditor General from auditing the Lesotho Highlands Development Authority directly. That means that there's an accountability gap, and that exists by design. Then there's construction risk. The project was originally due for completion in 2019, and many of the contracts were only awarded in October 2022. 5 ministers and 11 directors general were involved from the South Africa side since 2013. Then environmental risk. Construction activities have already polluted the Katse Dam catchment with acidic wastewater. Blasting has damaged local homes and water infrastructure. There's climate risk. Catchment yield has measurably decreased. Dams remain dry for extended periods, and it was previously pretty uncharacteristic. Projections are not favorable. And of course, political risk. There was a change in government in Lesotho in 2013, and that triggered a demand to review the entire Phase 2 agreement, causing further years of delay. This could even happen again. Then you have something called catchment degradation. Between 20 and 50% of Lesotho Highlands wetlands have disappeared over the last 30 years. The wetlands are the natural sponges of the system. They regulate water flow and they prevent sediment from entering the dams. Without them, the dams silt up and they lose capacity. So, primary cause, overgrazing by cattle in the Maluti Highland catchment areas. The land has no enforced carrying capacity, and here's the cruel irony. The Lesotho Highlands Water Project itself built the roads that gave herders easy access to the most sensitive areas. Without urgent catchment rehabilitation, the Polyholly Dam faces the same fate as its predecessors. Johannesburg faces what hydrologists are beginning to call a day zero scenario. So that's the briefing version. I want you to look around the room now. How many people are currently, and I'll look for it, on their cell phones, checking emails? How many people did I lose in the room? You see, that was the briefing version, but risk doesn't live on spreadsheets. It lives in people's lives. I want to introduce you to two men. They've never met. They don't speak the same language. They've never even been in the same room. One has never heard of the other. And yet their lives are bound in ways that neither of them fully understands. His name is Thabo. Thabo lives in the Maluti Mountains of Lesotho, up where the air is thin and the grass, when there is grass, is the color of pale gold. He is the third generation of his family to herd cattle on these slopes. His grandfather herded there, his father herded there, and now Thabo herds there, with a stick, a mobile phone with no signal, and about 40 herd of cattle that represent everything that his family owns. Thabo wakes up before sunrise, he takes his cattle up the mountain, and the cattle eat what they found, every day in the same places. Because the mountain is big, and the paths are familiar, and nobody's ever told Thabo that he can't go there. The grass gets a little thinner each year, the ground a little harder, and when the rain comes, and it comes less than it used to, possibly from climate change, the water runs off faster now, carrying topsoil with it, all the way down to the rivers, down towards the valleys, and eventually into the reservoirs that he's never seen. Thabo is not a villain. He's just a man doing what his family has always done, in a landscape that's slowly, quietly changing beneath him. So, let's meet Barry. Is there a Barry in the room? Barry lives in Durban North. He drives a double cab. Barry says, it's a bakkie, not a Hilux. He has a golf handicap index of 14, and he'll tell anybody that if he could get it, he could really get it to single digits if he just put his mind to it. He just works too hard. If he had more time, he could get single digit golf handicap. Barry works in supply chain. He's good at his job. He manages risk for a living, spreadsheet, supply audit, scenario planning. He goes to conferences. He sits in rooms like this one. Barry wins awards, and good for him. So on Saturday mornings, Barry has a ritual. 18 holes, a beer at halfway, and at the 19th, because he's earned it, the brandy and Coke special. Not a Pepsi, a Coke, obviously. Barry's life is good. Barry's life is comfortable. Barry's never thought about where his water comes from. He understands that there's sometimes distribution problems, but he mitigated that with a JoJo tank. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Because up in the Maluti Mountains, Thabo's cattle have been grazing the same wetland areas for decades. And those wetlands, those spongy, unremarkable patches of highland bog that nobody photographs and no one visits, are the reason the Katse Dam holds water. They slow the rain, they filter the silt, they feed the tunnels. And when the wetlands degrade year by year, hoofprint by hoofprint, the silt loads up in the river and it increases. The dams fill a little slower. The water quality drops. The treatment costs rise. Then one summer, hotter than usual, drier than the models predicted, the valve system drops below critical water thresholds. Restrictions are imposed across Gauteng. The brewery in Roslyn gets a notice. Reduce consumption by 30%, reduce water usage by 30%. The Coca-Cola facility in Midrand gets the same notice. Bottles slow down the line. Supply drops, retailers start rationing, prices spike. And Barry, standing at the bar at the golf club on a Saturday afternoon, sweating and quietly triumphant after shooting a very respectable 83, is told, sorry, bro, we're out of Coke and the beer is up 8 rand a glass. Barry stares at the barman. He says, what the hell? Are we piping the beer through the Strait of Hormuz? How can you be out of Coke? He says, water shortage, supply chain issues. Sorry. Barry, supply chain professional, risk manager, award winner, had no idea. He had no idea that his brandy and Coke was connected to a mountain in Lesotho. He had no idea that the man with cattle on the worn path up the hillside had anything to do with his Saturday morning. He had no idea that the risk was already in the register, just wasn't written in a language that made him feel it. Now, I have to share the same information with you twice. The first time, I gave you facts, percentages, infrastructure, a risk register, all accurate, all important, all the kind of thing that ends up on a boardroom slide deck and gets scrolled past at a Monday morning meeting. And the second time, I gave you Thabo and Barry. I gave you 40 cattle and a golf handicap. I gave you a Saturday morning and an empty Coke fridge. And I suspect, well, I hope that the second version is the one you'll remember. And that's not an accident. You see, that's storytelling structure. Let me explain the framework that I used to you. Firstly, the setup. Establish a world, make it real, make it specific. We spoke about Durban North, we spoke about double cab, we spoke about a handicap of 14. Specificity creates believability. Then the characters, two people, worlds apart, invisibly connected. Every business risk has human beings at both ends of it. Find them. Then the invisible thread, the mechanism that connects them. In this case, wetlands, silt, tunnels, reservoirs, a production line, a tap, a glass. Show the chain. 4, the disruption. Something goes wrong, the risk event. Keep it concrete and personal. It's not a supply chain disruption. It's no Coke and 8 rand more for beer. The realization, your character, your audience understands the connection for the first time. This is the emotional core. And the implication, what does it mean for us? What should we do differently? This is where the story earns its place in the business context. So that's the framework, but you might be asking yourself, what is the relevance? So this 6-step cause and consequence narrative, what is the relevance of it to you sitting at the PMR Awards breakfast on a Wednesday morning in Durban? Well, you're here this morning because you or your organization has won a PMR Africa Award. And that's just not just a certificate. That award is a recognition of excellence. It might end up on a wall, in a press release, on a pitch deck, or even on a billboard somewhere. But somewhere behind that award is a story. There's a person who never gave up on a project, and a client who took a chance. There's a team who worked through a crisis that no one knew about. There's a moment where the whole thing could have gone the other way. Find that moment. Find the people in it. Tell us what was at stake. Tell us what it felt like. Make us feel the risk. Then make us feel the relief. See, because this is what I know about this room. I know some of you personally, even in this room. Every single one of you is trying to persuade someone of something. We're trying to win business, retain talent, secure investment, influence a decision, change a behavior. And this is what I want you to know. Data opens the door, but story closes the deal. Story closes the deal. Thabo is still on the mountain this morning. He doesn't know about the awards breakfast in Durban. He doesn't know about Barry's golf game or the brewing plant in Roslyn or how dependent we are on his water. He's just doing what his family's always done. But the risk is real and the connection is real, and the story, when told well, makes it impossible to ignore. You see, that's the power of storytelling in business. Not instead of data, alongside it, around it, in service of it. Because facts inform, but stories move. And as human beings, we are hardwired for story. In business, we want people, we need people to move. Congratulations, Tabo says congratulations to all of this morning's award winners. And he encourages you to now go and find your stories. And before we close, we have some award winners this morning. So from South Africa's #1 security company in the PMR Awards to all of the companies that will be achieving the regional awards, we congratulate you. Well done. Enjoy your breakfast.